while people just stand around, recording policemen, hold a man down till his breath ran out. My eyes can't take another black man down, while other blacks stand round, yelling, officer, stand down, instead of putting hands down. Y'all come on now, when the time gon' come for you to put fist up and give a black man pound, shoulder to shoulder, stand round and say, I dare y'all now.
If one fall, we all fall. If one call, we all call. You watching him take his last breath, but silence is death. The song, y'all. Stand round, stand proud, stand tall. No more victims in the shadows of the law. Hands up, fists tight, we brawl. Justice no big gift, we must take it all. Stand round, stand proud, stand tall.
Say it loud.
Black skin sacred, can't erase it all. Heart strong, so deep we crawl, but still we rise, we break that wall.
They say wait, be calm, be patient, but how many mothers gotta bury their baby? How many fathers gotta fake that strength when the world don't give them space to vent? I done seen dreams turn into chalk lines, seen a bad turn a man into a flat line, and we still post signs, still march streets. But how many protests till they feel defeat? You can't free your people with fear in your mouth. Gotta fight like your spirit was born in the South, like Harriet walking with chains in the dark, like Malcolm with a mission and fire in his heart.
We broken, we just bruised, we still chosen, never used. When we rise for good, for our name, for our hood, we stand.
All right. It is about 8:30 on December 31st, 2025, which means none other than we're just a couple of hours away from the new year, right? 2026 is upon us, and there's going to be a lot that happens in 2026. But what's more important is what happened in 2025 as a launch pad for what's going to happen in the next year. Over on the channel, we grew. I think I started the year with about 250 subscribers or 400, somewhere around there. So we're up to 1,701 as of this moment, right? As of 3.5 hours shy of 2026. So thank you for everybody that has come to the channel, that's participated, that's commented, that's given me some advice. I definitely appreciate it. I'm trying to make a community here, right? Of course, I'm trying to grow the channel. I want it to be successful. I want to share my ideas and interact and all of these things. So the people that have been here, that have interacted, that have given me some advice along the way, or just came back, you subscribed, you liked the video, you shared it with somebody, I appreciate all of it. I even appreciate the comments that weren't so nice, because regardless, you interacted with the video and I might have learned something. There were a few people that said things that are harsh, and I still learn from those. But, you know, in preparation for us going into 2026, if you're staying up watching a ball drop, then, you know, this might be a place that you can park it for a couple of hours until that moment. If you're hanging out with your family, I completely understand that. Put me up on the big screen. Let them hear what it is that I have to say. But today, we are going to talk about Lauren Boebert. Lauren Boebert is a Trump supporter who is not getting along with Trump, right? She signed her name on the discharge petition for the Epstein files. As soon as the government shutdown happened, they're able to get the 218th vote. It went to the Senate, and then Trump signed the bill for the Epstein Transparency Act. He wasn't happy about it. So we're going to get into Trump's background with her, her signing the petition, why and how he's retaliating against her. We're also going to talk about Minnesota. Minnesota has been a hotbed topic for the past couple of days at least, but the past couple of weeks at most, with all of the fraud that's been happening over there. So there were some people that are arrested, maybe about 80 to 90 people that were arrested a few weeks ago because of some fraud. And then a YouTuber, Nick Shirley, he went over there, said that he was going to expose some fraud. And there's been a lot of backlash from the left and the right on what's happening and the fallout of his quote unquote investigation. So we're going to talk about that as well. And the last thing we're going to talk about is Bernie Sanders and Ro Khanna. These gentlemen are pushing very, very hard for a wealth tax over in California. They're saying they want about a 5% tax. And, you know, there's some nuances there. And there's some people that say, hey, we don't need a wealth tax. So we're going to talk about all of those things. And if you have something that you would like to talk about, drop it down in the chat. I did put in the chat what my New Year's resolution is going to be. So if you have one, if you participate in like putting a New Year's resolution, or you have some ideas of what you want to do in 2026, drop it down in the chat. Let me know, right? I'm going to try to dedicate 3 to 4 days a week, just about an hour a day to working out. I used to be heavy into the gym. I don't know if you guys, if you've been a viewer, then you might have known there was a time in my life when I boxed. I don't box anymore. I weigh significantly more than I did when I was boxing. And I need to get back in the gym. It's difficult. I got a lot of responsibilities. I got a lot of family. But that's no excuse for letting your health slip away, right? We are men, and we have to stay on top of what we're responsible for. And one of those things is our body. So in 2026, I will be back in the gym. Let's jump into this situation with Lauren Boebert. So here we have the reporting over on Fox 31 Denver. Let's check out what it is that they had to say.
Tonight here at 9 o'clock, just in the last 90 minutes, we have learned about a bill with bipartisan support that President Donald Trump vetoed.
And that's big news because his longtime ally, Lauren Boebert, was the sponsor. The bill would have provided clean water to rural southeast Colorado. Our Matt Morrow on it for us tonight. Matt.
Colorado Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, who for years has stood by and been one of President Donald Trump's most ardent supporters, is now publicly criticizing him in a statement she just shared with Fox 31. And this is all about a bipartisan bill that would have helped provide clean water to tens of thousands of people in southeastern Colorado. That bill would help finish the Arkansas Valley conduit by extending the loan time and cutting the interest. Again, this would have all helped provide clean and reliable water to some 50,000 people in the state. The bill is co-sponsored by Colorado Republican Congressman Jeff Hurd and tied to a Senate bill that both of Colorado's Democratic senators introduced.
So there we go. We're going to play the rest of this reporting, but it's a bill to get some funding for essentially like a pipeline for clean drinking water. And Donald Trump said no. He said no to somebody that's supposed to be his friend, supposed to be his supporter. And a lot of people are speculating it's because she signed her name on that fucking Epstein discharge petition. He didn't like it. It was reported at the time that the vote happened, that he had brought her into the White House, into the Situation Room, and was putting pressure on her like, hey, this is going to be bad. My friends are going to get hurt. And a lot of people, frankly, didn't care, right? A lot of people are like, hey, this stuff needs to be released. You need to be transparent. You ran on being the transparent president. So she signed her name. It ended up getting about 434 votes over in the House, passed unanimously in the Senate. Trump signed it into law. We have the Epstein Transparency Act, which, is what it is. But let's keep going with this reporting here.
Trump just this week vetoed the bill, writing in part, and I quote, "Enough is enough. My administration is committed to preventing American taxpayers from funding expensive and unreliable policies. Ending the massive cost of taxpayer handouts and restoring fiscal sanity is vital to the economic growth and the fiscal health of the nation." And to this veto and President Donald Trump, Congresswoman Lauren Boebert has this to say, quote, "I must have missed the rally where he stood in Colorado and promised to personally derail critical water infrastructure projects. My bad. I thought the campaign was about lowering costs and cutting red tape. But hey, if this administration wants to make its legacy blocking projects that deliver water to rural Americans, that's on them. I'm going to continue fighting for Colorado and standing up for our rural communities, our farmers, and every family that deserves safe, reliable drinking water without decades more delay." All
right, so there we go. So Lauren Boebert, she's calling Trump out to his face. She's saying, hey, I thought you were talking about, cutting spending, but doing things more efficiently and looking out for the American taxpayer, looking out for the American citizen. Trump has largely run on being like, make America great again. But it seems that he only wants to make himself and his friends enriched. He wants to align with business leaders. He wants to align with the people that are the most powerful in the economy, financially, and around the world in order to serve himself. That's really what it is. And it's unfortunate because a lot of people thought like, oh, Trump is going to look out for us. And then they ended up getting burned. I think there was something like when he did the big, beautiful bill, I remember there being something about like electric, basically energy, right? It was something to do with energy. You had all of these people that were working like these solar plants and stuff over in the Midwest. They were like, oh, well, I'm going to lose my fucking place of employment. I'm going to lose my income because of the big, beautiful bill, what he put in there as far as like renewable energy. So Trump is not who he purports himself to be. And it seems like people that were aligned with him, that were MAGA loyalists, they're starting to see the cracks and the fissures in Trump's ideology, or what he says his ideology is, versus what he actually does. Because when you're just talking, you can persuade people. Trump, he was in the media for a long time. He knows how to play to the camera. He knows how to communicate with people. He was a president before. He knows how to get a crowd, and that the right thing to do is something other than what Trump thinks is the right thing, then he's going to burn you at the stake, right? This is the same thing that we see with Thomas Massie. Thomas Massie is calling the Republicans out and Trump damn near all the time. Like every couple of days, Thomas Massie is tweeting and he's in some sort of bicker and fight with somebody either in the administration or like Mike Johnson, right? So Trump, he's not above putting his ire and pointing his authority at people that oppose him and don't like him. And people like Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene, they're starting to see that. They're starting to see like, oh, I looked up to this guy, I revered him, but he's really just a con man and a charlatan. And they're going to continue to see that because we have 3 more years and Trump is already showing his hand early into his second term, to the point where he's at a 36% approval rating. I was looking at some Gallup poll, and it said at the same time in Trump's and Biden's presidency, he was at like a 40%, right? So Trump, it doesn't seem like a lot, but 36% versus 40% is a huge drop. And then, unless you can turn this ship around, you're going to continue to go down, right? But let's check out this reporting from CNN, this news article, because I want to read some of the highlights of what Trump said. So it says, President Donald Trump issued his first vetoes for his second term Tuesday, blocking 2 bipartisan infrastructure-related bills. The president argued that blocking both measures was necessary to save taxpayer dollars. Yeah, Trump, he brought in Doge. He said that he was going to save the taxpayer money. Doge flopped. We all know that. Doge was a huge, huge failure. Elon Musk didn't know what the fuck he was doing. He was in there to, what a lot of people think is to steal our data and supply it to these AI algorithms and these large language models. So he was able to successfully do that and then disappear like a thief in the night. So Doge did not save the money it was supposed to save. Maybe Trump was naive. Maybe he had bad intentions and this was a nefarious deal from the beginning. We'll know maybe a couple decades from now. But it says, enough is enough. My administration is committed to preventing American taxpayers from funding expensive and unreliable policies, ending the massive cost on taxpayer handouts, and restoring fiscal sanity is vital to economic growth and the fiscal health of the nation. So this is Trump's justification for vetoing the bills. Oh, I'm just trying to save us some money and do the right thing by the taxpayer. I don't believe you. I don't think most people believe you. Jay-Z has this quote. He says, "We don't believe you. You need more people." Why do I say that? Trump is doing a fucking ballroom. Trump is trying to build this ballroom at the White House. It's supposed to be 90,000 square feet. It was originally, as you can see here from Ground News, it says it was originally $200 million. The cost has shot up to $400 million. And I saw something a little earlier, which is why I have this up. They're making like a drone-free roof, so you can't drop drones on the White House, which is obviously something that we don't want to happen. But like, what is it that you know that we don't know to the point where you need a drone-free roof? That you need, he said, oh, we're going to have the inauguration in here. I guess that little space behind the Capitol is no longer sufficient. Like the National Mall is no longer sufficient for having the inauguration, because now he wants to have the inauguration in here as well. Not that he's going to be a part of it, right? Trump is on the outs. But he's saying, oh, we need all of this space. We need all of this money. So you don't really want to save the taxpayer money, because the Rose Garden that you tore down to build this ballroom was perfectly fine. There was nothing wrong with that space initially. But Trump, instead of being the president, he has like renovation projects on his mind. Like, oh, let me restore the fucking bathroom and put all marble in it. Let me decorate the Oval Office with all of this tacky gold. This guy wants to be in real estate. He wants to be in interior design. He wants to be in architecture. and he's using the presidency in order to further his architecture dreams and goals, which we don't need. We need somebody that is actually looking to save the taxpayer money, right? Which is not happening. They have this pipeline that, right? Other people, they love him. So everybody gets to choose. Everybody's vote counts. And he is the president for the next 3 years. Here's another thing. It said, this is from ProPublica. It says, on October 2nd, the second day of the government shutdown, DHS Secretary Kristi Noem arrived at Mount Rushmore, blah, blah, blah. They go into this commercial that she did for ICE. It says, Noem held that the more than $200 million taxpayer-funded ad campaign as a crucial tool to stem illegal immigration. Her agency invoked the national emergency at the borders as it awarded contracts for the campaign, bypassing the normal competitive bidding process designed to prevent waste and corruption. This is why I'm saying Trump is being disingenuous. Not that I need a convincing, not that you need a convincing, but there's people that like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who had to go through the issue herself. There's people like Lauren Boebert, who had to be pressured over in the Situation Room about the Epstein files. There's people that really believed in the dream of like make America great again. And people have had to jump ship and say, okay, America first. Because what Donald Trump said that he was going to run on, he said that he was going to bring down costs and he was looking out for the average American. He's not doing that. He called affordability a hoax. When Zohran Mamdani started running on affordability to be the mayor, right, not the fucking president, Donald Trump said, oh, Democrats are using affordability as a hoax. That's like it's some sort of made up word. Like things can't be affordable. Like prices shouldn't be coming down. Prices have risen astronomically, and there are 42 million people on government subsidized food assistance. That is not normal. That is not a thriving society. That's not a thriving economy. You have people like Elon Musk, $600 billion. I think maybe 700. I saw something on X. Somebody had tweeted he had 700. His net worth was 700 billion. So I'm not entirely sure, but I know it's north of 600. You have that, and then you have people getting on average $187 a month to help sustain themselves as far as food. This is not a normal society, and the president will use his leverage in order to make sure that people don't have clean drinking water. Taxpayer money. He's going to say, no, we're not going to help these people have drinkable water because I'm having a fight with the person that is introducing the bill. Tell me how that is MAGA, how that's making America great again, how that's serving the American population. Because I'd be hard pressed to say it's absolutely fucking not. All right. So if you guys have different ideas about this situation with Lauren Boebert and Donald Trump, please let me know, because I just don't see it. Maybe I'm looking at it wrong. Maybe there's a more efficient way to build this pipeline and fund this project. But if you're telling me we can build a ballroom for $200 and then the price inflates to $400 million, if you're telling me we could shoot a $200 million commercial for ICE, if you're telling me that Doge cut 9% of the federal workforce, but then spent 6% more money, whatever the statistic was, if you're telling me all of these things are happening in tandem, but we can't give 50,000 people drinking water, there's a serious issue. If you're telling me that we can, I saw something about a $8 billion deal to give some jets to Israel, right? And then you're telling me that we had $6 billion in the emergency fund for SNAP. Like, this stuff cannot exist in tandem. And you keep telling us that, you know, we're a thriving society. These things, it's just not adding up. And I don't like the direction that Trump is going. I'm not looking to like find issues to denigrate Trump for. I would love to say that the president is doing successful, right? Him doing all of this bullshit only hurts us as a population. Regardless of if you're on the right, if you're on the left, if you're in the middle, all of us have to live on this rock. And we all have to, and we're all raising families or trying to thrive and trying to be successful. And we're supposed to have the most rich and most powerful economy on the face of the earth. We're $40 trillion in debt, and people are just not able to get drinking water from their government because the president is having a fight with one of his old loyal supporters. It makes no sense. It's a slap in the face to everybody that voted for him. And, we got to see some change. So that's what I think about this situation that's happening with Lauren Boebert. Let's go ahead and move on. Let's talk about Minnesota. So if you're not tracking, that's funny. I don't use tracking very often, but that's something that people in the military say. If you're not tracking the situation over in Minnesota, there was a gentleman named Nick Shirley. He's a YouTuber that called himself exposing corruption that was going over there, fraud. And I said before, I don't care that if it hurts somebody's feelings that they say, oh, it's Somali fraud or, oh, it's this person that's doing fraud. I'm not as concerned about that if the fraud is real, if it's true, right? What we can't have is a situation where somebody is politically motivated. They go over to this area, start looking at people and have a biased view of what's going on there because they're trying to paint a narrative. And that's what happened with this situation with Nick Shirley. Because of all of the spotlight that has been shined on the Somali community over in Minnesota, he went there looking to make a story about how like daycares and stuff are doing fraud. So he meets a guy that's a local. His name's David. And David is like, oh, look, I have all of these papers showing that this place is doing fraud. This place is doing fraud. And Nick Shirley, he just brings a camera and relies on that gentleman's data as if it's the gospel. And that's the issue. Nick Shirley ends up getting like 114 million views when he posts a 42-minute video on X. And people are taking this and running with it. And there's actual investigations that are being conducted, which is fine, right? If there's fraud going over there, it's not an issue to go investigate it and, bring those people to justice. Nobody wants their money stolen. I've been a victim of scamming, right? The guy took 25% of my savings when I was about 21, 22 years old. And, I don't want that to happen to anybody else. I don't believe in people stealing money. But facts and your feelings are entirely different. And Nick Shirley was going over there looking to create a narrative, relying on somebody's data. And it seems as if the data is not accurate and it's not playing out exactly how he said it's playing out. So let's move on. I'm going to show you this thing from over on CNN. I believe this is where I can't remember if this is where they approached him, but let's get this reporting on CNN. And I'm going to pull up the video as well, where somebody confronted Nick Shirley outside of the Leering Center, right? But let's get this reporting from CNN first.
As it is now withholding all federal child care funding to the entire state. The agency says the state receives $185 million for 19,000 children, and now that money will be gone. And the agency did not specify any alternate plans for families who will be affected. DHS and the FBI said they were surging resources to Minnesota to investigate what they called suspected fraud sites. This all comes in response to a viral video posted by a MAGA content creator.
Which, like I said, that's not an issue, right? If there is actual fraud going on over there, and they say, hey, we're going to send some people to just double check, make sure things are on the up and up, then that's perfectly fine, right? If David, who presented these 10 to 12 different daycares to Nick Shirley, if he has verifiable evidence that the FBI can look at, dig into, and make arrests based on people committing actual fraud, by all means. But you can't just go and start making up bullshit. This is like doing a false call or whatever they call it, filing a fraudulent report with the authorities, with law enforcement. So if it's not legitimate, I've seen stuff where people are trying to say, oh, well, Elon Musk can be sued because he pushed out the story. They're going to try to sue Nick Shirley if it's not true. And I got to say, that's defamatory at the very least.
He claims that he uncovered widespread fraud by Somali-run child care centers in the state. CNN is looking into those claims and has not independently verified the accusations. But the Deputy Secretary of Health and Human Services is taking...
Nick Shirley didn't verify those claims either. He just relied on the data from the local that said, hey, I drive past here and I never see kids. Well, you're a middle-aged guy. You're not supposed to be driving past daycares looking for other people's children. That if your kids are not enrolled there, you're not supposed to be on the lookout for other people's children at the daycare.
The allegations at face value. Take a listen.
Intrepid journalists have made shocking and credible allegations of extensive fraud in Minnesota's child care programs. We believe the state of Minnesota has allowed scammers and fake daycares to siphon millions of taxpayer dollars over the past decade. Starting today, we require a justification, receipt, or photo evidence before we make a payment.
However, the so-called evidence comes from a man who has posted
photo evidence of what? You want daycares to start taking pictures of the kids that are in their facility? I don't know that that's going to happen. Yeah. Anyway, let's keep going. I'm about to pull up this video of Nick Shirley. This is him being confronted by CNN. So it says, listen to Nick Shirley. He's a complete moron. You are trusting an ignorant clickbaiter. He thinks the daycare centers should have public reception area. MAGA trusts this guy because it distracts from the Epstein files and the fact their groceries keep going up. Yeah, people are looking to find somebody to blame for why things are not going as well as in their life. But I've got to say that, you know, there's either fraud happening and people can be arrested, or there's not. But Nick Shirley showing up, relying on somebody else's data, is not necessarily laying out all the facts, and he's not unbiased. But let's look at CNN confronting him. And I'll be right back. My kid's crying. Let me go check on him.
Did you come during their normal operating hours when you came to visit?
I came at 11 a.m., I believe, and I also came the following day later in the day. The point of it is not whether or not I came at the right time of their operation hours. The point is that blacked out doors, they can't give you any information. You call that number, no one answers. I wasn't trying to go inside, and there should be a way for somebody to actually be able to call that number and somebody be able to answer. These aren't real businesses.
But surely you don't think a daycare should just be unlocked. You shouldn't be able to just walk into a
There
daycare.
should be a reception.
No, every daycare is locked.
Their doors are locked.
And so, okay, you bring up a fair point. Then why can't they actually give me information how to enroll?
Did you come during their normal operating hours when you came to visit?
I came at 11 a.m., I believe, and I also came the following day later in the day. The point of it is not whether or not I came at the right time of their operation hours. The point is that blacked out doors, they can't give you any information. You call that number, no one answers. I wasn't trying to go inside, and there should be a way for somebody to actually be able to call that number and somebody be able to answer. These aren't real businesses.
But surely you don't think a daycare should just be unlocked. You shouldn't be able to just walk into a
There
daycare.
should be a reception.
No, every daycare is locked.
Their doors are locked.
And so, okay, you bring up a fair point. Then why can't they actually give me information how to enroll?
Did you come during their normal operating hours when you came to visit?
I came at 11 a.m., I believe.
All right, I appreciate you guys. I had to go take care of my kid because I'm a family man, and the family is sick. You know, it's the winter season. People are getting the flu. But there you have it. Nick Shirley, he can't even verify that he came during the normal business hours. And, you know, he has nothing to say. He has no answer for it because he didn't do his own independent research. He relied on the gentleman, David, to tell him what was going on. It's not entirely an entirely thorough investigation, but the FBI is there. They will uncover what is or what is not going on with that facility, and we'll know more. But this entire situation, man, is blown up. Like I said, there's 114 million views at least on his initial video, the one that's 42 minutes long. People watched the entire video, and, you know, some people ran with it. Some people took it as gospel, and other people were poking holes in it. You know, I can't remember if it was this daycare or another one where they showed on the same day that he approached their facility, they were putting evidence up like, hey, we did have kids here. Now, of course, they blocked out the kids' faces. They didn't show, you know, they didn't show the faces of people dropping their children off, but they showed, hey, this van pulled up at this time, and then another one pulled up at this time. Nick Shirley pulled up at this time. So it's not entirely accurate what it is that he's trying to portray, but it is going to stoke the flames because the Somali community over in Minnesota is already under scrutiny. The people in MAGA, people in the Trump administration, they're looking for someone to blame your problems on instead of telling you, hey, we're fucking up. We're doing all of these ICE raids, and we have Kristi Noem spending $200 million on an ad Trump is spending $400 million on a ballroom. We're sending money for F-15s to foreign countries. They don't want to tell you that. They want to tell you that the most rampant waste of money is happening over in Minnesota. I'm going to repeat this again because people seem to like think that if you criticize Nick Shirley's reporting and investigative work, which also requires quotes, that you're co-signing any type of fraud. And that's not the case. I'm not co-signing any legitimate fraud that is investigated and proven. But you can't just put that claim on somebody. Just like you can't put the claim on Trump to say, oh, because you're a friend of Epstein, you're also a pedophile like Epstein was. There has to be proof of that, right? So I just don't like the level of reporting that he's doing, the lack of investigation that he did into the facts that David brought. Like, it's shoddy work, right? And you being 23, if you want to get into the field and say, hey, people can rely on what it is that I'm providing, you have to stand on that and you have to live with it. So he's going to continue to get a lot of backlash. This stuff is going to be investigated. It's going to be a much more thorough look into what's going on there. And if these people are defamed, then if these people have been defamed and sue him for defamation, if all of their business is legitimate, it is what it is. They got people calling. One of the daycares was broken into. Like, that Somali community has already been denigrated. They had a huge spotlight on them. And now they're being harassed by people not only in their local area, but people are out of state calling and just dogpiling on, which, this is the internet. So that tends to happen, but it's unfair to them if they're not doing any legitimate fraud. So let me go ahead and pull up the last thing. If you're here, man, I put in the chat my New Year's resolution. If you weren't here in the beginning, I said that I'm looking to work out 3 to 4 days a week. I've kind of gotten away from it with the family, but it's no excuse. I got to get back into it. I got to take care of myself. So if you have a New Year's resolution, as we're 2 hours and 58 minutes away from 2026. If you have a New Year's resolution, drop it in the chat. Let me know what's on your mind, what you're trying to accomplish in 2026, right? I used to do a list back in the day. I used to do an entire list of stuff, like 10 bullets. I was like, I'm going to read 5 books and then do a couple audio books to get certifications and travel. And my life has slowed down so much. I don't really have the time that I used to, but I do enjoy coming up on the stream. So if you're interested in interacting, drop me something in the chat. So the last thing we're going to talk about on this New Year's Eve, let me go back to this thing. We're going to talk about Ro Khanna and Bernie. So Bernie Sanders and Ro Khanna have been they're trying to push for a wealth tax over in California. We've got people like Elon Musk. He has $600 billion. We got the most billionaires that have ever existed. People are insanely rich. And like I keep saying, because I think it's an important point, we have 42 million Americans on subsidized food assistance, on SNAP, right? That's 12% of our population. This is not sustainable, right? As prices are going up, AI is replacing jobs. The jobs that are available, they don't want to do any significant increases in pay, right? How many people have gotten like a 3% raise, a cost of living adjustment, and you're like, damn, this, it is more money technically, but it doesn't cover all of my expenses. I'm sure everybody can relate to that in varying degrees, but we can't have all of these things, again, in tandem, and we have somebody that's one day going to hit $1 trillion net worth. Like, it's such an insane range of wealth and poverty. It's unsustainable, right? So we got people over in California, mainly Ro Khanna, who is trying to push for a wealth tax. And of course, he has Bernie Sanders' blessing. So we're going to read Bernie Sanders' statement. But if you don't remember who Ro Khanna is, let me just give you a quick background. He is the gentleman that co-wrote the bill for the Epstein Transparency Act. It was him and Thomas Massey, so that's who he is. Anyway, here is the statement from Bernie Sanders after Ro Khanna has been talking about this 5% wealth tax. It says, yes, we need a wealth tax on billionaires. At a time of unprecedented and growing wealth and income inequality, I strongly support the grassroots effort in California to impose a 5% wealth tax on 200 billionaires worth $2 trillion. This initiative would provide the necessary funding to prevent over 3 million working-class Californians from losing the health care they currently have as a result of Trump's so-called Big Beautiful Bill. So this is, from what I understand, like a one-time thing, right? They're trying to get like a one-time payment of 5% of their wealth. And how they're going to do it hasn't fully been fleshed out. Ro Khanna said he's open to ideas. I saw something else about them taxing some of the loans that wealthy people have access to. Because as a way to hoard their wealth, what they do is they get a loan. Instead of selling their stock or using their income, they say, okay, I have $500 billion or whatever. I need a $3 million loan to buy this car or buy this hotel or whatever it is they're buying. So they get the loan and then they pay it back because they don't have to pay taxes on the loan, right? They could just pay the loan straight up, pay it back straight up. So they're saying, hey, let's do a one-time tax on their unrealized gains. And I'm going to tell you, I do think that there is wealth inequality. Obviously, there's wealth inequality. It's not just something I think. It actually exists. But I think that it's a mistake to take people's unrealized gains, and I don't like the way that this is being talked about. I think that there has to be a different solution. I would like to see something happen, but you can't just go in people's coffers and be like, okay, now I'm going to take 5% of what you have. Where we need to start is working with the money that we have and making sure that there's no fraud, like what they're saying is happening over in Minnesota. We have to spend this money more efficiently before we ask for more. This is my issue with Democrats always saying like, oh, we need to raise taxes. We need to raise taxes. That very well may be true. But before you start talking about needing more money, let's budget what we have, right? I'm of the Dave Ramsey approach. You can't spend more than you have. You don't go into astronomical amounts of debt. And because our economy is so big, right, it's a difficult thing to say like, oh, well, we shouldn't just go more in debt. But we have to find out where this fraud, where this waste, and where this abuse is happening and actually put our money to good use. I keep seeing stuff over in China where they have, like their BYD car and these trucks that are autonomous driving that drive on the highway. We've got to act like the superpower that we are. We have to act like the wealthiest country in the world, which we are. Like we can't operate in the fashion that we've been operating in and continue to call ourselves a global leader. Like we're $40 trillion in debt. I don't know another country that can be as in debt in the hole as we are and then walk around with our nuts hanging on the ground like we say that we do. It just, these two things cannot exist in tandem. Anyway, Bernie's statement says this is a model that should be emulated throughout the country, which is why I will soon be introducing a national wealth tax on billionaires. So Bernie's saying, hey, let's not just do it over in California. Let's do it nationwide. We can and we should respect innovation, entrepreneurship, and risk-taking, but we cannot respect the extraordinary level of greed, arrogance, and irresponsibility that is currently being displayed by much of the billionaire class. In my view, in a democratic society, we cannot continue to tolerate a rigged economy in which 60% of our people live paycheck to paycheck and 12% are on fucking government subsidized food assistance, SNAP, struggling to pay for food, housing, welfare, healthcare, welfare, while the top 1% now owns more wealth than the bottom 93%. We must not continue a trend in which over the past 50 years, 79 trillion in wealth in our country has been redistributed from the bottom 90% to the top 1%. That's Bernie's entire shtick. He's been saying that since the time that I've seen him, right? about 2015, 2016, he's been on the same type of ideology. And that's why you see people like Ro Khanna. That's why you see people like AOC and Zohar Mamdani, who are the children of Bernie's ideology. They're going to be carrying the torch into the future when Bernie is no longer here, right? And while I respect what it is that he's saying, and there are parts that I agree with, I think that we have to be more efficient in how we're spending the money we already have before we start telling people, okay, we want more and we're going to waste that money too, and you're never going to get healthcare, you're never going to get the fucking pipeline that Lauren Boebert is trying to get. You're never going to have better bridges or roads. We're still going to be relying on coal for energy. Before we start telling people we want more money to do the shitty things that we're doing, how about we start spending our money more efficiently and improve our processes, improve the funding that's happening to these programs, and not just continue to get robbed, right? If you're going to ask me for more money, I'd be willing to pay more taxes if it means everybody across the board gets health care. I'd be willing to pay a little more taxes if it meant that, you know, we had a better subway system. You had to pay for the HOV up and down 95 in the DMV. Like, I'd be willing to pay a little more taxes if these things operated more efficiently, and they don't. So I definitely see where Bernie's coming from, but we have to get out the fraud, the waste, and the abuse, which Doge was trying to do, right? I don't necessarily think that Elon Musk wanted to do it. I think that they threw up Doge, said it was going to do it, but he was really trying to get data and information for these large language models. But if we're going to do it efficiently and we're going to actually follow the process, then I'm perfectly fine paying a little more taxes myself. But let's tackle the central issue of the waste before we start asking people for more money. So just to finish this off, it says Congressman Ro Khanna, who represents the very wealthy Silicon Valley, is absolutely right in this effort. He has correctly said we cannot have a nation with extreme concentration of wealth in a few places, but where 70% of Americans believe the American dream is dead and healthcare, childcare, housing, education is unaffordable, a billionaire tax is good for American innovation, which depends on a strong and thriving American democracy. From a moral, economic, and political perspective, our nation will not thrive when so few have so much, while so many have so little. We need a new tax system that demands that the billionaire class finally pay their fair share of taxes. Yes, we need a wealth tax on billionaires. That's Bernie Sanders, man. Maybe we'll come around to his thought process and ideology sometime down the line. But you know, Bernie, he's been doing this fight for a long time, and it doesn't seem like we're really moving the needle. That doesn't mean that it's never going to move. That doesn't mean that we're going to stay in the same position. It's going to be stagnant, and we're going to keep cutting taxes for the most wealthy people in the nation. But like I said before, let's fix the first issues first before we start asking for more of, you know, people's income. So because of the way this stuff has been going, there are people that are saying, hey, we're not going to be paying our taxes in 2026. We're not going to pay our taxes for the 2025 tax year. There's a movement going on where, you know, I don't know if it's going to sweep the nation like MAGA did in 2016, but there are people saying, hey, we're not really jiving with the way things are going. We're not going to pay our taxes in 2026. So you have this woman over on X, her name is Saf Says. She says, fuck it, I'm not paying taxes this year. And when the IRS comes after me, I'll blow that up into a huge national story about how the government will destroy our life over a couple $1,000s. Meanwhile, the Pentagon just failed their 8th straight audit in a row. Somalis literally come to the U.S. just to defraud us out of billions, and illegals are prioritized for Section 8 housing and welfare programs over Americans. Like we said at the start of this, or in the last story, we don't necessarily know to what extent the fraud is happening for the daycares, but some fraud has been exposed over in Minnesota, and the people that were implicated were mostly Somali immigrants. So that's what she's talking about there. But the Pentagon has failed their 8th audit in a row. Since Trump's first term, they've been failing audits. And I read somewhere it was like like $2 trillion or something, or like $1.4 trillion of our taxpayer money that we're paying to the government only for them to play a shell game and like, oh, well, you know, I don't know if you guys remember the show Avatar, and they're like, there's no war on Ba Sing Se. There's no failed 8th audit from the Pentagon. But there is, and that's our taxpayer money. And our infrastructure across America doesn't look like these parts of China that are thriving and they're taking technology and innovating and making their country beautiful, right? If we are the most powerful and richest country in the world, we should be able to look like it. If you go to New York is, to me, there's some people that love it. New York is disgusting. I hate New York. And I won't go because I'm not getting in the fucking subway. You see rats running all across the street. When I was taking the train here in the DMV, you go on the ground and it doesn't look like, you know, it's not as bad as New York, but like it's not clean. It's not beautiful. And you see some stations over in China, they look like something. They look like the year 3000 or something. So we should be able to reflect that if we have the most money, if we're the most powerful, if we have, I think it said like 200 billionaires just in California, right? Elon Musk is going to be a trillionaire sooner or later. Why can't we have nice things? And it's because the government is going to waste the money. It's because the government doesn't want to ask the richest in our society, hey, can you pay a little more? Can you pay a fair share? You're not going to go into poverty as a billionaire by paying the 5%. But also, as a caveat, we don't need the 5% if the government is going to waste it and the Pentagon is going to fail a 9th audit. So Marjorie Taylor Greene, she picked that up. She said, this is how angry Americans are, and rightfully so, with nearly $40 trillion in debt and Social Security becoming insolvent in 2033. Now imagine if millions of Americans did this. I'm going to tell you right now, I'll be paying my taxes for 2025 at the turn of the year, right? I'm going to pay my taxes. I'm not even going to lie to you and pretend like I'm following this movement. You will not see me in an orange suit and handcuffs following Sav Says over on X and Marjorie Taylor Greene basically giving her the green light for this. You won't see me following them. But what I will say, without a shadow of a doubt, we should be thriving a lot more than we are. And the government has to be held accountable. We are their client. When you exchange money, when you give money to somebody, you become their client. And what we're getting as a client to the government is not, for the money that we give, we're not getting the level of service that we should be getting. We're not getting the transparency that they said they were going to get. We got, Elon Musk said he was going to cut all of this money out of the government, and Trump gave him the green light to come in and do so. It didn't happen. He cut a fraction of that. They're spending money on a ballroom. They're spending money, giving it to foreign countries in order to conduct their wars and buy jets and all types of stuff, right? I just think that we need to look like, I'm not going to, get on my soapbox. I've been beating a dead horse. And I know people want to get to their New Year's Eve celebrations, but we should look like the country that we purport to be. That's really the long and short of it. Whether that means that we have to get our stuff on track or people need to pay a little more, we need to get some voices in there and some people with some plans, right? We pay for a level of service that we're not getting. And you wouldn't accept it from, if you went to a restaurant and you ordered lobster and they brought you some fucking shrimp, you would say, okay, either I'm not going to come to this restaurant anymore, they need to replace the chef, or I'm going to fight and demand for better service. And the same thing with the government. I know it seems like, once the government takes the money, it's not my money anymore. But it really is. It's our money. It's our government. It's not Donald Trump's government. It's not Biden's government. It's not Kamala Harris's government. It's not Gavin Newsom's government when he runs in 2028. It's our government. It's a government for the people, which means that we are the client, which means when we give you money, we deserve to have nice things. All right. I keep saying I'm not going to beat a dead horse. It's already dead. If you've been around, I appreciate you. That's where we are going to end it. I hope everybody enjoys their New Year's Eve celebrations. And as I've said before, don't add to the population and don't take away from the population. If you've been here throughout 2025, I 100% appreciate you. We've grown this community from a start of, I think it was either 250 or 400 at the start of 2025. And we're on our way to 2,000. So if you're new around here, I would love if you subscribed. Tell me if you're enjoying the content. Tell me if there's something you would like to change. And I will see you in 2026. Until next time, peace.